Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to be doing our finale for the Michael J. Edwards Retail and Merchandising Leadership Series. It has been a fast 6 months, believe it or not. Amanda was one of our debuting speakers, and she is here to close us out. Um, some of you might not know this, but Amanda Buchanan, Abney Buchanan, that's how I'll always remember her, is a recruitment manager for the IKEA group. She works to ensure effective hiring practices. She has been with IKEA now for how long, Amanda?
It'll be 6 years in July.
Time is flying, 6 years. She has over 15, I want to say 20 years of human resource experience
Probably about
in
20
retail and
now.
diversity, equity, and inclusion. She received her bachelor's degree with a double major in international business and Spanish from Loyola University in Maryland and has an MBA from Villanova University. And she is one of my favorite people in the entire world. Welcome, Amanda Buchanan.
Thank you, Joe. Right back at you. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. I'm super excited to answer your questions regarding just career development, how you can land a job, things that you should do. I've got some kind of like a framework that I use. I've got some slides from previous presentations that I've used that I could even share with you guys through the presentation, but I am here to answer questions. Joe, he was kind enough to talk about my background and some of the experience that I've had most recently, but I've worked in a different arenas. I've worked everywhere from social services, coming right out of undergrad, into a corporate healthcare arena, working for Cigna, where I was working in diversity, or today we would call it DEI or ED&I. I've worked in retail at Target. That's where I kind of got my retail start. And I did everything from store management to then becoming an HR manager to a recruiter there. And then from there, I left and I've worked in manufacturing, and I found a home most recently at IKEA. And I've worked my way up through recruitment and just career development there. So it's been an awesome journey so far, and it's continuing, and I'm just really excited to be here to help. I'm fortunate enough to be a people person on top of that, so I really love presenting, and I love talking and answering questions for people in this area where I've spent a great deal of time in the recruitment space, understanding what leaders want from ideal candidates, how to find the jobs, how to get the job, how to nail your interview, what you should have on your resume, the whole gamut. So I am here. I'm an open book to answer any questions that you guys might have. If there's anything that you'd like me to review, just let me know, and I'm here for you.
Do you want to start presenting, and do you have anything to
Oh yeah,
present?
I have a presentation.
Okay. And you don't have to either. It's up to you.
I mean, we can use it kind of as a guide so that we might be able to kind of spring
Yeah.
some questions from individuals. Linda, Joy, or Alexander, did you have any questions?
None yet. Okay. I will say this, I would not
None
want to
yet.
be working at Target this month with the Pride Shop business. That's been making me it's been making me we have a graduate student who's guest relations
Really?
Oh,
Oh
wow.
boy,
in Syracuse. She's like, it's every day.
lots happening.
Crazy. All right, anyway, get started.
Did you have a question, Linda Joy?
Not yet. I just kind of wanted to see, since I didn't see the whole presentation. I'm coming in on the tail end. If you had some slides, because then I may have some questions
Okay,
Yep.
based on that. Yeah.
okay. Let me share my screen. Oh, hold on one second.
You're fine. Take your time.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
And I'm just putting it into presentation mode now. So here's well, not even kind of, here is just career strategies, landing that perfect job, and we'll skip through this. But one of the things that I focus on is just really how the world is changing, and we have to change and adapt to that, and making sure that we are preparing ourselves for the job search process. So we can look at like traditional means of working through the job search process, as well as some maybe unconditional approaches. So when you think about doing the job search, a lot of people immediately think, oh, well, let me go submit my resume on LinkedIn or Indeed or the job board that a particular company that you have has posted. But one of the things that some people who are really smart about it do is, after submitting their resume onto a career site, whether it be Indeed or the site for the particular company, they get to work on LinkedIn on the back end and looking for the names of recruiters and looking for the names of individuals who might be in the department or even just the business unit that they might be interested in. So I'll tell you, just this week, someone figured out how to quote unquote hack the system that way. And she actually happened to be a Loyola alumni. She's a Loyola alum. She's graduating next year, but she's applying for an internship at one of our sites in King of Prussia. And she messaged me. She said, "Hi, Amanda. My name's Amara." I was like, okay, easy to remember. She's like, "My name's Amara, and I am actually interviewing with IKEA next week, and I'm looking to prepare. I also noticed that in addition to working for them, you're a fellow Loyola alum, so I'd love to be able to pick your brain." And of course, I was like, yes, I want to talk to her. I want to help her. But even if I didn't know her, the fact that she said that she was interested in the company that I work for, and she went to not just the answers or saying, "Hey, can you get me in?" but just some tips on how to have a successful interview, I was super intrigued. So really being able to be very proactive with reaching out to individuals and networking that way is always going to be a win for you. So I say making sure that you're getting your altitude before identifying your starting point and finding your career in the job that you want to. So you want to make sure that you're taking personal inventory. Are you looking for a job or something that is going to be a little bit more long-term for you, and thinking about it? So as you're taking the inventory, really thinking about the things that you're passionate about, what your own personal values are, and looking for organizations that have not just a position that you might be good at, but a company that is aligned with what you are, because you got to go there every single day. You want to go to a place that you can stand by and that you believe in. Thinking about the roles that they offer. Maybe you have specific strengths. Maybe you are really good at being an empathetic leader. Maybe you are the type of person that can get information out of individuals without being intrusive. What are the strengths that you have that other people might lack? And then when you're interviewing or engaging with individuals who might be influential in the hiring decision, put yourself in their shoes, reread the job description, and making sure that you are getting out of that description what some of their pain points might be that they would look for an individual to come to their team to help focus on and being able to drive. For example, I'll use retail. It's just where I am right now. But imagine you have a team with individuals full of attitude and aren't getting through to customers. You want to, if you were going for a role in, say, customer service, share how you can create a softer personality bring out the softness in a person. Maybe someone comes into a location irate, you're able to really diffuse them and make things calm so that they can have a good experience, and you can turn something that was negative into a positive for them. So those are the types of things that I want you to focus on. Like, what do you do that and bring to the table that others simply don't? Any questions?
Um, Amanda, how do you feel? Do you feel that soft skills are fading, or do you think people need to really think about their soft skills and their approach to discussions?
I think they do. I think it's super important. Great question. I think that the soft skills are really what is going to be driving. So we live in an age where technology is just taking over. You're hearing about AI technology, the Chat GPT. technology is really kind of moving super fast, and it's important so that you're knowing and learning what's out there, but also leveraging your soft skills to really be able to balance those out, because we want to make sure that we're keeping the humanness in those sides of the business. So you want to make sure that you are able to connect, making sure that you're able to create good documents and communications, making sure that you're able to take inventory of individuals who you're working with and know how to work with them, because as long as there's people, you have to have balance, and you have to have those soft skills to be able to drive that. So I mentioned some of the pain points that you want to focus on. So you want to think of yourself as a problem solver and a pain reliever for any type of hiring manager. And you can add the information around those things to your resume. You want to make sure that you are able to communicate those things effectively to any type of recruiter or hiring manager, or if you're doing a LinkedIn reach out to someone, perhaps scheduling like an informational interview, or maybe just a quick connect with someone, you want to make sure that you are being very specific around who you are and what you bring to the table, and how you can help alleviate some of the pain that they have in their current openings. So one of the things that I am very passionate about is really building, especially when you're in the job search process, is building your own personal brand. I like to think about the details that are within me. I am high energy. I like to talk. I love connecting with people. I'm passionate about leadership. I'm passionate about development. So when I am meeting new people and I'm networking, I don't want them to leave without knowing those things about me. I'm also passionate about recruitment. I'm passionate about helping people grow their careers. So I want to make sure that anybody that I meet knows those. So you really want to think about it like marketing. Think about marketing and how you respond. So are you going to respond to something that's really drab, or do you want to respond to something that's vibrant? You have to present yourself in a way that's going to be appealing to the masses. You need to know and kind of figure out what it is that they are interested in, what they need, and how you can bring that to the table. And I love this last line that I said, the purpose of your branding is to reduce uncertainty about, about why you are there talking to them about a job. So if you have applied to a position, making sure that you know what it is, you at every single level that I've interviewed for, I've taken interviews and people are like, well, what is this for? And why do you need me? You need to do your own research and bring it to the table as well. So some job search strategies. So LinkedIn, I can't reiterate enough, is just really important to have, and for numerous reasons. So it's not going to be your resume. Your resume is usually limited to maybe like 2-3 pages, depending on where you are in your career, sometimes a little bit longer. LinkedIn, you can add all the detail that you wouldn't necessarily add onto your resume. And I guarantee you, for certain industries, if you are going to submit an application, the recruiter's looking at your resume, but they're also going to look directly at your LinkedIn as well, going straight over there to kind of see what it is. What's your engagement like? Are you currently employed? Are you in an industry? Are you posting articles? Are you reposting different things? Are you creating your own posts and leveraging yourself as a thought leader? That's going to be really important. And there's lots of jobs posted there as well. Google is actually the #1 website where you can find job openings. Believe it or not, it actually is, because people, when you have an idea or you want to think of something, what do? You go to Google. You can just Google in job openings in my area, or you can look social work jobs in my area and add your zip code. And there you have a whole listing of jobs that may not appear on LinkedIn, may not appear on Indeed, because a lot of times companies have to pay specific amounts of money for those positions. But there's a lot of smaller companies that have lower budgets, but are still able to compensate you in a healthy way, that will come up on Google sites. So Google does a great job of kind of scrubbing through job boards for virtually every company to find the positions. Of course, there's online job boards, and I have a note here because there are certain job boards. There's like Farmers of America job board. There's a job board for Black women looking for jobs. There's a job board for virtually everything. But just making sure, like, as you're applying for jobs, one, that you're making it a job and you're tracking it and being very organized about where you applied and when. And then tailoring your resume to stand out so that you can be powerful and share. So maybe you apply for accounting level 1 position here at IKEA, but maybe you go to Home Depot and you're like, you know what, I want to apply for this accounting manager job. Making sure that your resume speaks to the words that are in the job description, and that you're from there, you're able to really be able to explain the differences in the work that you're going to be able to do. Reaching hiring managers right at their desks. This is another ploy for LinkedIn. The thing about it is, like, you can look up names, you can look up numbers, and not numbers, but you can look up names and you can contact people through just sending messages, adding people as a friend. The majority of people on LinkedIn, if you add them or request to follow them, they're going to allow it. Most people have open networks on LinkedIn and want to meet other people, so add them as a contact and just send somebody a quick message saying, hey, how are you? My name's Amanda Buchanan. I recently saw this posting for your job. I decided to apply for it. I would love to connect with you to learn a little bit more about your experience at the company and what your thoughts are about the position. It's simple as that. You can also leverage your social media. So, like, not to put you on the spot, but Linda Joy, I know you saw this on my social media, so that's really great. So the networking continues to continue. And then your network, tell a friend to tell a friend. People will speak about things or connect with other people. So I posted this on social media, and while, like, some people may not have a need for this themselves, perhaps they've reached out to someone else and have shared it. So definitely never underestimate the power of your network, and always ask people, if you're in the job search process, let people know that you're in the search, because something that might come across their lap may not be for them, but they might think of you and it might be the perfect thing that might happen. I'll tell you now, my position for here at IKEA, or just getting into IKEA, I got because someone else heard about the opportunity and thought I might be good for it. And I'm super grateful because I am still here 6 years later, and it's been a really great journey. Any questions?
I do. I know you talked about social media, which I think is great, and using those platforms to one, kind of showcase your engagement and also connect with people. Like, how important do you think it is to have your own personal website?
I think it depends on the industry. I think if you're in something like graphic design or something like that, I think it's great to have an online portfolio that people can look at a glance. But I
Mhm.
think in the job search process, I mean, it's definitely a differentiator, but I don't think it's necessary. I think, like,
Okay.
a LinkedIn page should be sufficient. But if you have if you're in an industry where you're like in the design type of industry, or maybe you want to get into writing, like maybe some corporate communications, and you have samples of your writing and things like that, you can add those to a
Okay.
website, but I don't think it's necessary.
All right. Thank you.
Can you
That's
share what
helpful.
industry you're in or you're looking to
Oh,
get into?
yeah. I worked for municipal government for about 10, 11 years. And then about 2 years ago, I switched over to nonprofit.
Got it. Got it.
Mhm.
So definitely get into LinkedIn, because there's just so many different leaders in the nonprofit world that could help
Yeah.
you. Or if you're interested in staying in there, or if you're interested in making a pivot, you can definitely network and meet individuals there. If you got a dream company, follow them, follow people who work there, and get to connecting.
Okay.
So with the job, are you looking for something new at this point?
I am. I'm looking My son is playing his Oculus, if you can hear him in the background.
Okay.
But I'm looking maybe for like a chief of staff job, something like that,
Mhm.
or something in operations. Um, those have been the areas that I've worked in. So typically something maybe that's in strategy or in special projects and those kind of things.
So we're on the perfect slide for you. So creating a
All
great
right.
a game plan for this. So I
Okay.
hear that you're a mom. Yay. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that. So you're a mom, you work, you're looking for something different. When you are in the job search process, you have to make a job out of finding a job. I highly encourage having a spreadsheet, name of, like I said before, name of the company, position applied for, date applied for, where did you see the job, and if you've heard anything back from them. I think it's super important, and you have to put in the work. Do your research. Look up some of the companies. Are there any names of companies that you like, that really intrigue you? Do you have a dream company? Do you have a dream role? And thinking about those, listing some of the titles, and then start looking them up, looking up to see who's in the role, setting up some informational interviews. The beautiful thing about a system like LinkedIn, and this feels like a I love LinkedIn like stand kind of meeting, but I can't reiterate enough how valuable a tool it is. Like, you've got so many people and their contact information right at the palm, right at your fingertips, honestly, with the click of a button. And you can just reach out and say, hey, I'd love to set up 10-15 minutes. I take so many calls per month with individuals who just reach out wanting to learn more about IKEA, learn more about a job posting. And sometimes it's like, hey, this is not the company for me, coming from some people, or hey, I've got a position that you might be interested in, and it might not be today, it might be 2 months from now. But building that network, and people having someone, like, people who work for companies love being able to refer someone. And we aren't meeting people the same way as we have been in the past. So, I mean, it's starting to build up a little bit again as the world has opened up more, but we have to still get a little bit creative, because you just need one hiring manager to see what you can bring to the table. And then from there, things can just really really kind of like escalate really quickly in a good way for you. And then as far as the job search process, get an accountability partner to help you along the way. I think that's really important, because sometimes it can be daunting, and you can really get frustrated because you can apply to 10, 15, 25 jobs and maybe not hear something. But if you've got someone in your corner to continue encouraging you and supporting you, sometimes that's all you need to keep going. And then right around the corner is your next opportunity. So I mentioned networking. I'll kind of like fly through this. But really, when you network, it's really important to have a game plan with that as well. So, like, how are you going to approach? What are your opening conversation look like? What is the dialogue going to look like? And it should be a dialogue. A lot of times we meet people when we're in the job search process, and we want to just kind of talk about us, and and sometimes we don't allow space for other individuals to ask questions. But if you are in an arena and the premise is networking, like maybe you're going to a specific networking event, expect to be able to speak to yourself, but make sure it's a give and take and it's conversational. And then don't hesitate to ask for something. Say, hey, I would love to have your business card. How can I keep in contact with you? Do you know of any opportunities that might be open at the company that you work for? I see that you're connected with XYZ person. Could you form an introduction for us? You have to be, I don't want to call it aggressive, but you do have to be a little bit bold and ask for some of the things you want specifically, especially if you're in a job search type of state. So I will kind of skip those. Um, do you have an elevator pitch? Oh, you're muted, but that's okay. So I think that,
Oh, I was just saying I need one. It's been a long time since I've done one.
yeah, you got to have one. So you really want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you are doing it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like packaged as such like an elevator pitch, but just being able to share quickly and briefly who you are, what you do, and what your goal is. The premise behind an elevator pitch is if you were to get into an elevator with, say, like the CEO of a company, you have between now and say 30 seconds when they get off of their floor on their elevator to be able to explain who you are and what you do and what your goal is. So it's really important that you are crafting this. So you want to make sure you introduce yourself. You want to talk about why you're there, what you're doing, what your work experience has been like, and then how you can, sorry, I don't have my water with me. And what you can possibly bring to the table for that particular organization or a specific department. And just letting them know that you have some interest, but being able to do it quickly. And that doesn't mean I'm talking like this and I'm going to get everything out of my system, because I'm a fast talker, but it means making sure that you're clear and concise with the information that you want to convey to them, and that they leave knowing who you are and what you're able to do and what you're able to bring to the table. So I'll have an example of just kind of the way it should go, mainly geared towards college students, but we can tweak that. So it's really just introducing yourself. So for me, hi, I'm Amanda Buchanan. Major or career history. I am a recruitment manager for IKEA. Prior to that, I've been recruiting for manufacturing as well as other retailers, Target. I've been doing this for well over 15 years. I really love it. I'm currently looking to continue my leadership in the recruitment director type of arena. I see that you had that type of opportunity available. I would love to talk more. Could I speak with you or maybe a colleague who could give me some more information around that? I hope to talk to you soon. I'll add you on LinkedIn. It can be as simple as that or a little bit more complex in the conversation, but you want to ensure that you're able to speak about who you are and what you bring to the table. And it requires practice. And that's the one piece that's often missing from individuals when they're in the process. They don't want to practice. And when you are speaking about yourself, it's really like a muscle. And that muscle memory, you can begin to speak about it in any way, shape, or form at any given time. But it's really important that you practice it so that you know what you're bringing to the table. You know how to talk about it. You know how to answer questions about yourself should they arise. But the more you practice, the more comfortable you feel with it. And the same thing goes for interviewing. When you're in that interview environment, really kind of know, and I'll get there in a few minutes. I'll kind of rush through a couple other things. But networking is important. Building is important. Like I said, the world of business is human and relational. Despite all of the technology that we're seeing, people still need that human engagement. And you can differentiate yourself. You're able to ask questions, so it can be a mini interview, and you can learn a lot about potential mentors, potential companies, and build those connections that'll last through the networking. So I'm going to kind of rush through the next piece. I kind of talked about it a little bit, just kind of asking questions through the networking. You can just ask people like, hey, what does a typical day look like? What do you like best about your position in your company? But there's also questions that you shouldn't ask. So what do you have to offer? You're there looking for something. They're there to help you, but you don't have to kind of go in like, oh, so what jobs do you guys have at your company? That's not necessarily it, because right now where everything is right at your fingertips and your phone, you can probably go on their website and see the positions that they have right there. If you're networking with somebody and you learn about their company, you want to avoid talking about like controversial and negative questions. Maybe there was some sort of a data breach, or maybe they had mass layoffs a year ago and they're back on the upswing when it comes to hiring. You don't want to ask about those things, but you can ask questions around some of the health within the company. Maybe if they're offering specific benefits, you can ask that. You don't want to put people on the spot and ask, do you think I'm a fit for this position or this company? Because people will probably not want to answer it, and it might be an immediate turn off for them. And then you also don't want to ask questions that you could probably find out from a Google search. And you don't you don't want to present like, oh, I see that your company was founded in 1865. Joe, did you have a question?
No, I'm just, oh, yeah, I was gonna say, like, so when does it become appropriate for, if you've done your homework and the information is not there, for example, I'll give you a question. What is the career trajectory of this position? How does a career in this position look?
I
Where
think,
where
okay.
would you see me in a year and a half or 2 years? In
Yep.
this, if I were to accept this position, how does promotion work?
Yep. I think that that's an appropriate question, mainly at like the interview phase. You don't necessarily want to ask that if you're in like an initial networking conversation, but if you are doing like an informational type of interview, like maybe you met on LinkedIn or met briefly at like a social event and they're talking about the company and they like maybe I think you might be a good fit for this. That's when it's appropriate to ask those questions and they're totally okay to ask in there. And I think it's great when people ask about it because people do want to know about growth opportunities and most organizations want to hire somebody that has some longevity, that's going to have some longevity and be able to grow with them because it is an investment to hire people. Good question. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. And then I kind of hit on what you should ask and then always close in a kind way. So dressing for your interviews, if you get an interview, dressing to impress, it all depends on your industry. So traditional business is like the suits, your power suits that you come in, but times have changed and so have organizations. So I always add that, or sorry, I always suggest that you are on the side of caution and talk to the recruiter that you're talking to and ask what's appropriate for the organization. So, for example, IKEA is very relaxed. We wear jeans every day. But for my interview, I did not ask when I initially interviewed, and I wore my power suit, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. They looked at me like I was crazy. Luckily, I did get the job. But maybe it's business casual, and business casual is a little bit different for each company. Some business casual, it's like no tie with your suit, but some it's like, no, we wear polo shirts or we wear t-shirts, or men don't wear ties at all, or women, you have to wear jeans or we're super trendy. It all depends on what your organization, what the company is, but really don't hesitate to ask what it means and what the company culture is like around dress, or even like hair, or if piercings are allowed or tattoos okay. So I got into, well, we're not going to talk about hair in the interview process, but like tattoos and piercings and things like that. Can you wear ripped jeans? That's been a big thing at our companies this year. Like every other pair of jeans has been distressed and they don't necessarily want that, but they do want people to come in and feel comfortable and casual and a little bit more polished away.
How do you, okay, so I would say this. You said we're not going to talk about hair.
No, because women can, with the Crown Act particularly, you can wear your hair any way that you want to wear
Thank you.
at the work at work. And that's definitely a huge win for all cultures so that you can come and be who you are and expressive. But just know that some looks might be a little more tame than others. Some looks might be a little outlandish. You're not going to come to the office with necessarily like crazy spikes in your hair all around. But if you would like to wear your natural hair, you should be able to wear that in the environment that you want.
Would you tell candidates to do some homework on the company that they're interested in, or the industry, or no, it's more particular the company, and really look and see how they're dressed and reflect the dress of that company? Or would you tell them to, if wholeheartedly expressing yourself is really important, then just go in as yourself?
I would say that I would tell them to do their research
Yeah.
and try and fit themselves into that. Sometimes you do need to conform a little bit. I mean, I've seen it backfire tremendously on someone who's like, I have to be myself. And this girl, she was a really great candidate, but the hiring manager was like, I just can't do it. She's like just too provocatively dressed for an interview. Like, this is just not going to fly in this organization. Too much showing. too much going on, it happens. And people, people look for the content of what you bring, but at the same time, your outward appearance is going to be very important in the interview environment. People want to know what you might come in. Like if you come into an interview looking one way, are you going to come in every day looking that way too? It is important.
I want to ask you another question too, because I think this is for anybody who's going to watch this video. I think it's important. If I am someone who is, maybe I'm someone who my gender expression really doesn't allow an individual or a recruiter or an interviewer to really know who I am, perhaps know my gender. Is it important for is it important for me to put my pronouns, preferred pronouns on my resume? Are these types of things important now? Because these are questions I get asked by students a lot in today's classrooms. Like, how important is that? And I really, can be honest, I would refer to you because you're the expert. I don't know.
You don't have to put that. You don't have to put that. I think as we are learning more and becoming more educated, you'll find that hiring managers, at least the recruiters, should be well equipped and well versed to refer to individuals as they, them, they, he, him, his, she, her, hers. And if someone volunteers that information, it's better. I think, it's not necessarily better, it's really good and it helps them. And if you know, if you're someone who has unique pronouns and you want people to go by them, proactively bring them up. I would. If you are going by they, them, and someone refers to you as he, his, and would get offended, well, how is anybody supposed to know? But if it's something that's really important for you, you want to make sure that you are sharing with them, because what is it? If you knew better, you do better. So people would do better if they knew the information that they had.
Thank you.
Yep. Good question. So, ruling the resume is something that's really important to me. And your resume is just a snapshot into the work that you bring and your accomplishments. It should be quite clear, concise, very, it doesn't have to be flowery, full of pictures and all kinds of graphics, but it should share your work history and those key accomplishments that you've had. It should share your story. Your resume is what's going to get you into the interview, and then you have to bring the rest. But here's a couple of quick tidbits. So it should be like 1 to 2 pages in length, depending on your relevant experience. It can be longer. It can be longer than a page, but just make sure that the information is relevant. So for example, like I've been in the workforce for 20 years now. Wow, that's crazy. For 20 years. And I don't have like my first 2 jobs on there anymore. They're just irrelevant to the work that I'm bringing. You want to have in my resume, I'm bringing forth the information that's based off of the skill sets that I've gained that are going to help me get the next job, which is luckily for me in the career path that I have. You want to use active words and power words that will help speak to the hiring manager. Words like created, led, delegated, developed. Those are the types of words that really showcase the actions that individuals would want to bring onto their teams. Individuals are looking for leaders. They're looking for people who are self-starters and are driven to work hard to continue to do their best and do more. And you want to make sure that you're sharing that through your resume. You want to highlight the things that you're most proud of. If you're in school, an expected graduation date, but your skills and the things that drive you and that you're passionate about from the work standpoint should be on their resume. But it is what's going to get you the resume and get you the interview, and not necessarily the job. You have to bring your job skills through in the interview, and it should be flawless. So you should have correct spelling, correct grammar, punctuation, etc. There's so many different tools that you can use to ensure that it's there. Get your accountability partner or someone who you know who's an expert in resumes, or at least has a strong eye for detail, to look at it once again. I think those things are super important. So here's just an example of a snapshot of a resume. It's got a career objective, which you don't always have to have. If you have a good, strong objective, you can add it there, but this is a lot of prime real estate on the resume in the career objective section that you could use to add more bullets around your professional experience. It's got it's in reverse chronological order, and it shows the job that they had and this key tasks that were there, as well as the education and additional skills. You can also add any types of certifications that you've had or any type of activities that you've belonged to that you've had as well. But it should have like your name and contact information, your education, experience, technical skills, activities, honors, and awards on there as well. And a good format for your information is like your name, your address, where you are residing, your phone number, and email address. I'm actually seeing more, and I'll probably update this for my next presentation. I'm seeing more and more people just limit it to their name as well as their phone number and email address, and leave off a address. And that's simply because a lot of people are either looking for remote jobs or people are open to relocation. Somewhere in your application, you should though have what your address is. I mean, that'll definitely be a given, or where you're located, because there might be some positions that are limited to where you are. A lot of times right now, people are looking for remote positions, just kind of people found that they thrive in remote environments. But what you'll see on job postings is that the job will say hybrid, must come into the office X number of days, or remote, but must be in the Philadelphia area. And that's really to protect the organization from having to pay different types of taxes and having to do all kinds of crazy things. And in the event that they want to make a decision to bring people back into the office for however long, it'll eliminate the need to have future terminations or having to offer severance to individuals who can no longer meet those requirements, but they weren't a requirement from the beginning. And a lot of companies are seeing that right now. So if your educational information, you want to list your college or university, what your major was. GPA is really not necessary if you're at the professional level, but if you're a student or a recent grad, if you've got a 3.6 or above, you'll want to add that. Or if you're going for like a specialized major, like if you're an accounting or finance major, you need to have your GPA there. Otherwise, you really don't need it. Also have your expected graduation date. And if you had more than one school and more than one degree, list them in reverse chronological order of the time that you got them. And then your achievements, your experience. You really want to list the achievements that most closely fit to the needs of the position. This is why I said earlier that you should be able to tailor your resume for the position that you've applied to, and making sure that you're writing that down. Different positions require different skill sets and different, sorry, this light is really bothering me a little bit, and different characteristics from you. And you'll want to make sure that you have a resume for one job versus another job. Some positions you can use the same resume over and over again, but if you want to go to a organization and you know that they are focused on data and driving for results, you'll want to have that information in one of your resumes. But if you know one that is a little bit more lighter and they do want to focus on the soft skills a little bit more, that's what you need to do. But then that's where your research comes in and needing to know the company a little bit well.
Amanda, you have exactly 12 more minutes.
I just noticed that. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm talking.
That's okay. I just want to.
But you want to make sure, like I said, that you are providing examples that speak to the hiring manager's pain points, thinking about why this position is open, what they might be looking for, and you want to make sure that you're bringing that. So it's okay to ask questions and do your research. But you want to include any accomplishments you've had. I like to see a lot of data in them, like was able to reduce reduce wait times by X number of minutes, or was able to increase the number of clients that we've got on a monthly basis. Seeing those numbers and that you're able to drive change and drive results is really important. So I spoke about these things already. And if you have any type of technical skills or awards or honors, making sure that you're adding the relevant ones. You don't have to say that you were the hot dog eating champion of your small town in 2021. That's not going to be relevant, even though you might be really proud of it. That's not necessarily resume relevant. And you guys laugh, but I've seen it recently on some professional resumes. It's crazy. So just the wrap up tips, unless you've got a unique objective statement, you don't need to use it because it's taking up a lot of real estate on your resume. You don't need the GPA unless you're a recent grad and it's above 3.6. You don't have to add obvious responsibilities to the job. Like if it's kind of like a given that you can do these things, like I know Microsoft Office, you don't have to add that anymore. I think everybody does, or maybe like you want to add like certified in it, or maybe you've gotten some sort of a certification. For students, include your graduation date, especially if you're currently in school. Oh, this is my favorite one. Save your resume in PDF format, because sometimes we want to put unique formatting or lines and specific bullets on our resume. It doesn't always translate well into the applicant tracking system that recruiters use, and you don't want your resume that you worked so hard on to go unnoticed or cause any frustration to a hiring manager because it looks a little bit wonky in the system. And after you upload your resume, not every system is savvy enough to pull your information out, and it's super frustrating to put your information in have to put your information into the system after you upload a resume, but it's super necessary, because what recruiters will do on our end is, if we're looking for someone with a certain skill set, we'll enter keywords that aren't always found through the search, and it'll just pull it from that information that you type in. So that's great. And then as far as saving your resume and title, use like first name dot last name, but not resume with the year X after it, or just something silly like Amanda resume. I have about 13 Amanda resumes in my downloads right now, and only one of them's mine. So I was like, change the title, guys. So you want to do that. And making sure that you're tailoring your resume, and then being honest and knowing your resume inside and out, because if you are not as honest as you should be on your resume, there's a chance that the recruiter might ask you a question that has to do with something that you wrote, and you might stumble, and we can't afford to do that. So does anyone have any questions about the resume before I go into the interview? And we have a few minutes more. Is there anything you'd like me to highlight about interviewing?
I would highlight really quickly. I would highlight do you have any questions for me? That's my favorite. Do you have questions for me?
Oh, yep.
And you get a blank stare from a candidate. Like what can you ask a recruiter that doesn't sound ridiculous, that makes you sound like you're intelligent and you're interested, but at the same time, you really can't think of anything to ask them because it's been too soon. Does that make sense?
Yep. So do you have any questions for me? So in your interview, that's a really great one, Joe. Thank you for that. Do you have any questions for me? What you don't want to do is go to, as I mentioned before, like a controversial topic in the news. So for example, like I'm a recruiter. If I'm recruiting for, like, someone on my team is recruiting for an IKEA store, someone would probably ask right now, so I see IKEA's made this amazing investment. What is the money going to go to in your store? Like, I don't know. And that's not necessarily for me to answer for you as someone looking to come into the company. That's just not appropriate. But maybe you want to ask them what they enjoy most about the company or the role that they're currently in, or ask what is a successful candidate going to do within their first 90 days within the role. I'm super excited because I'm intrigued by this role, and I would love to be able to set myself up for success. You'll want to ask what really, you don't want to ask anything negative. You want to keep it positive. So you want to ask them what they like, what their ideal team would say about working for them is a question that you can ask. And then beyond that, you can ask, I have listed here, like, what are the next steps? It's completely appropriate to ask, like, what are the next steps in the interview process and timing? But don't ask it in an arrogant way, like you are waiting, like you'll be waiting for them. Like, do you know how long I'm going to have to wait? No, just like, and you can say, what's the expected time frame on the decision for this type of role? You'd be surprised. People from all walks of life will ask those types of questions. I see you giggling, Linda Joy, but it happens so often. And then you want to ask, may I have your contact information? I would love to follow up. And you always want to follow up with a thank you email, or some sort of a note, just to say thank you for the time. You also want to make sure that in your thank you email that you are mentioning something. Maybe you guys talked up something a little bit unique. Maybe you refer to an article in your interview, or maybe something that you guys have in common, perhaps to make yourself a little more memorable. In the interview thank you note, you say, hey, it was great connecting with you. I'm super enthused about this position. I really enjoyed our conversation. I especially love talking about this hobby that we have in common. In fact, I thought this might be something of interest. Drop a link in there. That's the kind of thing that makes you memorable and makes them want to talk to you even more, and really sets you apart from others. And then you say thank you, and I look forward to hearing about the hiring decisions. Those are the types of things that make you move forward. And then I just want to go back a few slides and just kind of give you the format structure for answering an interview question. So most companies are still using behavioral interview questions. Those are the questions that start off with, tell me about a time or describe a time. They're looking for just that one specific time when you did something. So the purpose of a behavioral interview is really taking a look at what you've done in the past as an indicator of how you might move forward, if you get to that organization. And there's a special format that you want to use to answer those questions, and that is the STAR format. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So when you go to answer a question, you want to say what the situation was. You want to give them a brief picture, and that should be like a snapshot, one point in time. If you start saying, I would do this, I would do that, you're probably going in the wrong direction and giving something that's general instead of a specific example. So you want to give one specific situation that happened. You could put a timestamp on it if you needed to. Then for the task, what was being asked of you? Then the action, talk about in steps, what are some of the things that you did in order to get to the result? Did you take a partner? Did you work by yourself? Did you have any type of conflict? Did you run into anything? And then you want to make sure that you are following up with what that result was. And then for a little razzle dazzle, at what you learned from the situation as well. But if you follow that format, situation, task, action, result, you can really nail your answers. But you really want to make sure that they're high level, and you want to make sure that you're listening clearly to what the question is to ensure that you're answering the actual question. The other tip that I have for you guys as you interview is really take inventory of your experiences and figure out maybe 5 to 6 stories that really sell who you are, and know them inside out. Because interviewing, like I said, it's like a muscle, and you have to practice in order for it to work. You want to be able to know those stories inside and out, because if they're good enough stories, you'll be able to rely on those to answer virtually any question that you have that comes up in an interview. So just wanted to share that. So I will skip through this, and you can easily Google STAR method of interviewing so you can answer the questions, but making sure that you are being confident and that you are that nervousness is anticipated. It's okay for you to say, I'm a little bit nervous. if you need to, but you don't have to. But really just building your confidence, but really know your resume inside and out, know your stories inside and out, being able to speak to what your strengths are. And a lot of people ask what your opportunities for improvement are or what a weaknesses even. Be prepared to speak to those. And they want to know about those, as well as being able to talk about a mistake. Because if you're able to speak to a mistake, we want to see what you did to overcome it. And we also want to see that you're accountable and don't think that you're perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Our founder said, even when one is sleeping, only when one is sleeping, no mistakes are made. So that's one thing to think about as well. And you just want to make sure you're ending on a high note and saying thank you. And then following up with the thank you note.
Fantastic. Any questions before we go? We've got a few seconds.
Oh, well, no, we have like 60 seconds. That's okay. I'll follow up. But thank you, by the way. This was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's funny how much you can forget even in like 2 years, you know. But for the pitch, when you leave on that high note, do you have any like suggestions or recommendations or key things you really want to include on that final pitch?
Just kind of what your objective and what your interests are, and always asking how you can get in contact with them, or if they have a colleague that you could that you could contact just to learn a little bit more or continue the conversation.
Thank you so much. That's great.
No problem.
So will you send, you said you'll send some of the slides?
I can send them to you.
Oh, that'd be
enti-
great. Thank
the
you so
entire
much.
presentation will be uploaded on the Westfall YouTube station, and so it'll be there forever.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
Drexel University has a Westfall, which is our college, Westfall YouTube. You can see Amanda's first talk there, as well as
Oh my
all the
God,
other talks. So they're all there. So just go there and you can
that's
watch it over and
perfect.
over and over again.
No, and I'm gonna send this out to a friend who's looking because I think this was like concise and like, but like full of information.
Here, I'll put the link
This
in
was
the
awesome.
chat.
Perfect.
Oh, okay,
Thank you,
great.
Joe.
No problem. I was just honored they did it. And here we go. Hold on. There it is. I just put it in there for you. But all the talks are there. And
Thank
so
you.
when you click on it, it says Drexel University. And then if you scroll down, you'll see all the talks.
Awesome.
Retail and Merchandising Leadership Series. So, and again, I'm thrilled to death that Amanda was one of our debut speakers, and she's our finale.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I appreciate this opportunity.
And we will have Amanda again back hopefully next year to do another talk if she wants to on HR and recruiting. Because
Awesome.
I think a lot of this is common sense. I don't want to say that. I don't want to simplify it, but it's the things that you just don't think about or do.
And you can easily forget some things. So it's
Yeah.
definitely good to have a refresh.
Yeah. Amanda, thank you.
Thank
Everyone,
you.